President Biden says he expects to speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping soon. This after unveiling a major deal in which the U.S. and the U.K. will provide Australia with nuclear submarines in a move to counter Beijing's growing influence. That happened yesterday. China's foreign ministry spokesperson says this morning that China and the United States are maintaining necessary communication. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane is here. General, thanks very much for being here. Your thoughts on these most recent developments?
Well, first of all, the AUKUS deal is really significant because we're talking about nuclear-powered submarines, not nuclear weaponized submarines. But it really commits Australia and the UK to countering China in the Indo-Pacific region. And China is really paying attention to this. One of the things the administration has done well in dealing with China is strengthening the allied partnership. You've seen what happened with the Quad, which is also Australia, India, and United States and Japan. President Trump revitalized that, and President Biden has strengthened it. And China notices these. I mean, when we match the capabilities of our allies, Japan, the Philippines, Australia, India as well, that match certainly gets to provide the beginnings of a deterrent against China. The United States by itself, as we have said many times, our military capability has eroded. So strengthening these relationships is very important, and it certainly gets President Xi's attention. And obviously what he's trying to do here with Russia and Ukraine, he's trying to be the global statesman. You saw that in the Middle East. The United States pulled back from the Middle East. Many people in the administration think it's a distraction. It's not a distraction. There are 3 geographic areas that are in the United States' national interest, regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat in the White House. Those are there. They remain there. One is the Indo-Pacific region, which we're talking about. Second is Europe, where there's a war going on. And the third is the Middle East. If the United States creates a vacuum, President Xi moves in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I've been concerned about the foreign policy of this administration as it relates to China. And to me, it feels like China is winning, General. I mean, I wonder how you see it. But look, over the weekend and last week, we see more moves from the Chinese Communist Party. Obviously, China being the power broker, bringing Saudi Arabia and Iran together. The CCP continuing to try to buy up land in America, surveillance programs in place from a, surveillance balloon to TikTok. Now we know Xi is reportedly preparing to speak with President Zelenskyy for the first time since Russia invaded Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reports those talks will happen after Xi visits Vladimir Putin next week, all after we know that China has been cozying up to Russia and perhaps supporting its war against Ukraine. And here we have a situation where the U.S. has failed to stop the progress and the forwardness of the Chinese Communist Party and provocations against Taiwan, America, and anybody else who gets in its way.
Well, the good news, there's no doubt what you're saying is all true. China certainly has been advancing at the expense of the United States. I mean, they lead in, of the 44 advanced technologies, China is now a leader in 37. And we're not talking about stealing IP. We're talking about they're producing their own IP, which is in advance of the United States. And certainly that is groundbreaking. There's no doubt that China, as we have said, wants to replace the United States as the world's global leader and do that literally at the expense of the United States. Now, when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, and China, Zelenskyy has been trying to get a conversation with President Xi for weeks now, actually for months, to be frank. Now, why is that? Because he wants President Xi, who's obviously a close ally of Putin's and Russia, to hear what's going on in Ukraine from his perspective. And he's certainly going to emphasize the major violation of territory, which President Xi at least espouses to hold up, and that is sovereignty. And then he's going to talk about what is actually happening to the Ukrainian people, and that is the rape of their women, the torture of their men and older people. the migration of 600,000 Ukrainians into Russia, the migration of children, forced migration of children. These are all war crimes, and he wants to talk to him about that. So look, at Putin as a liar and a thug, and we know that. And you know what he's telling President Xi. He's lying right to his face about it. So I see that phone call, if that's what happens, as a positive thing.
Yeah, Xi's probably lying to Putin as well. He wants all the, the rare earth minerals in Russia, and he's gonna get them. But what I'm saying is, there's no urgency out of this administration to actually counter the aggression of China. I mean, President Biden is proposing an $842 billion defense spending for the fiscal year 2024. That's a 3.2% increase from this year's $816 billion budget. So what does that tell me? It's a decline, okay? A decline in defense spending when you compare it to inflation, which is running at 6.5%. So here we are talking about a decline in defense spending while China is provocating across the world, and this administration is sitting back. It's the governors who are doing real work on this. Here's Governor DeSantis. Here's Governor Nome, and what they're doing to stop the CCP. Watch this.
We need to wake up every single day recognizing what they've been doing for generations. I recognized and saw them buying up our fertilizer companies, our chemical companies, buying our processing systems. They're buying our food supply so they can control us, not only manipulating their currency, stealing our IP. Now they're purchasing our land so they can have a foothold right here in the center of the United States of America to conduct surveillance on our defense systems. It's alarming.
We are going to prohibit CCP-linked businesses from purchasing land in the state of Florida. They want land grabs in our country, and we're not going to allow it to happen in the state of Florida.
Governor, General, these two governors joined me on Sunday. They were getting tough. I don't hear that kind of conversation happening in the White House.
Well, getting back to the defense budget, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a 3.2% increase. 6% is inflation. So by definition, that's a decline. Now, listen, $842 billion, that's a huge amount of money, and nobody in the world is spending that kind of money on defense. But to keep up with China, which is the most rapid growing military in the world, we need to have a defense budget that represents about 5 to 6% to understand where the administration's priority is. When you look at discretionary spending, this is away from Social Security, away from Medicare, away from pensions and the rest of it for the federal government. The discretionary money for defense, we just said, is at 3.2%. For the rest of the discretionary non-defense spending, it's at 14%. That's where this administration's priorities are. And while we talk a good game about it, what really needs is capabilities. The money buys capabilities, and that is what we need in the Indo-Pacific region. More capabilities deployed in the region and more advanced technology. Some of that is in this budget, but it's not sufficient. It's not urgent enough to underscore what you just said, to get these capabilities into the region.
Hopefully the administration is listening to you, General, because our viewers have heard it before. We're outgunned and we're outmanned when it comes to the navies in the U.S. versus China. And I am quoting a great man. That's you. You told me that more than a year ago. I think 2 years, 3 years ago, you said it. And we're in the same position. General, thank you. General Jack Keane, we so appreciate your time.